Hello everybody. I want to thank you for clicking on this video. For those of you that are from Quanah, Texas, you may have already put together exactly what this video is about. And there's really not much more to it than remembering Sage and remembering her life more than anything, and that's kind of what this is about. The rest of you that don't know Sage, hope you can take away from this video some of the drawing process and maybe some of what's going on here. But for those of you in Quanah, this probably hits home a little bit, or a lot, for many of you. Once again, I want to thank you for clicking, and let's get to it. I didn't know Sage too well. She was a couple grades ahead of me. She was class of 2010. My class is 2012. I worked with her for a little while at United Supermarkets. I was going to college at the time, so I was just kind of here in the summer and on holidays. Other than that, didn't spend much time around her. So I didn't really know her all too well. She was a very beautiful girl. We were in the same school together, and saw her in the hallway a few times, but never. I never really had any kind of relationship with her. So it was very, very odd that I found myself thinking about her quite often this past summer, and I felt compelled to do a drawing of her. The main driving reason for doing this was that I take walks in the morning and in the evening sometimes, and I go around the loop of our town on the southwest side. Comes back up to Highway 6, goes north from there, comes up to a church, and just about the time you reach the curve coming into town before you make it to church is where she had a car accident. I won't go into the details of that, but anyway, it took her life. So it's a hard thing to take in. It's a sad thing, but there's a memorial there for her, and I passed by that many times. There's many things left there in memory of her. And I've read a bunch of those and seen a bunch of them. That was one of the main things that compelled me to do this work of her. So, as you can see here, I've detailed the face, the main parts of it, the outline of her face, the eyes, the nose, her mouth, and a little bit of the hair, just kind of the outline of the hair. Most of that was all done in 9H pencil, very, very light. From there, you just start kind of filling in all the darker details. You can see I'm working on her eye there, filling in all the main parts, of course, the pupil and, just the outline of it, getting in all the eyelashes. The scale that I used for this, using a reference picture on my iPad, and you can see the corner of down there. With that, I went a 1/2 millimeter measurement. For every 1/2 millimeter, I did 1.5 millimeters on the drawing itself. So that was the scale I used to get everything, proportionate and, make sure I had the right proportions. And then from there, I just kind of detail and work in, what I can visually. Of course, the eyes, the mouth, and the nose are the main features of the face. I spent quite a bit of time on the eyes, of course, and her mouth, mainly the teeth of the mouth. Figured I was gonna take a lot longer on the lip, her bottom lip, which is, more pronounced in the reference than the top one. There wasn't a whole lot of detail for the top, but honestly, I started spending more time with the teeth. The details of her lip came out fairly easy, I think. The eyes weren't too bad. The nose, although it doesn't have as much detail, it commanded a lot more in the shading, more attention there to help it stand out as it is with the contours and the depth of the face around it. So that was really the only challenge there with the nose. The eyes were really fun to do. The eyelashes around, just the shading from there kind of gives them a roundness, a spherical look. So that's very important. Towards the outsides, the peripherals are a little bit darker, and then towards the inside, which is where essentially where the light source appears to be from the reference, it's kind of up in the top corner, going back. You can imagine, maybe it's just a light in the room, in the center of the room or something that's, that she's a little ways off of. And you get that, of course, by looking at her face, the light that's towards the top of her head and then across her hair, which we'll get into here shortly. The only thing that really bugs me about what I did here, I'm working on that little bit of hair there, and now I'm coming in to shade in the face. I think I got the hair just a little bit off. Just that little strand that she has coming down. I think overall it turned out really well. She was one of my best, to be honest. And that really just comes in, it comes out of just patience. How long are you willing to spend to get stuff right, and to also be honest with yourself. If you make a mark that you know is wrong or doesn't look right, not to let it just fly, not let it go. I think anybody, if they can do that and pay attention to what they're doing, I think anybody is capable of doing works like this, and certainly better. There's a lot of people that are incredible and do it in a much smaller amount of time. I don't do them as often because I know my patience level, and I'm not always the most patient, and it takes a lot of drive, a lot of want to be able to do this kind of work for me. The face and the details of the face are obviously the most important, but it's the hair that has the most details, and what I usually tend to lose patience on. It's very hard for me to maintain patience at that point, but I think I did it better on this work than I have on any of them. And so that's why she's one of my best at this point, for sure. I started this drawing actually in a full color reference that I had, but I took it and I did it in black and white. Got it down to just the basic values there. That way I could really see the differences in the light and the dark. It was a better reference at that point to what I was doing, because this is a purely black and white graphite pencil drawing. So see, now I'm back to my 9H pencil very lightly, just putting in some of the details, the foundation of the hair, before I'll go back in and actually add in more of the darker areas and give it more definition, essentially. It was very, very fun work to do. I enjoyed quite a bit of it, especially once I got into it more. I started it in August, right around my birthday. I didn't do a whole lot with it for that month. I had some complications that month, but come September too, I didn't do a whole lot in September, but call that procrastination. But come October for sure, I started picking up on doing it a lot more in November here, finishing it out because I wanted it to be ready, at least by her birthday. This past 27th November 2019, she'd be 28 years old. It was important to me to kind of get it done by that time, and so I was kind of pressuring myself, and that's really hard to do sometimes too, and also stay patient enough to really not rush through it. But once I got around to doing the hair, I knew that was gonna kind of come for me, that I would not lend as much focus, and it still does come down to technique and how you approach it, and maybe there's some different approaches that people do to kind of help make the hair work out like it should. I did a few different approaches, like as far as the left side here, her right side, that I'm working on currently. I just did it by the degree of pencil, depending on how I saw the differences in light and dark, contrast, and where the hair overlapped and how it intertwined in certain areas. I didn't think that was probably the best thing after I'd gotten into it a little deeper. Going down from the side of her face there, you can tell there's some definite strong dark areas compared to the lighter areas. So on the right side, which would be her left side, the hair on that side of her face, I approached it differently. I did it with more tackling the darker areas primarily, and then just blending from there. A lot of the detail of her hair came down in this area where I'm working now, on both sides, especially on her left side or the right side of the page. That's where all of it kind of strands and curls down, and there's a lot more going on. So it's very hard to get all that down and try to keep a sense of realism. But once again, it just takes attention to detail, and it takes time, a lot of time and patience. And you can see I'm constantly throughout this, I have a ruler. So I'm just always trying to keep those proportions. And that gets very difficult at times too. If you even once start to get real loose with your drawing, with the strokes of the pencil or whatever tool you're working with, you can find very quickly that your proportions can become out of balance. And so I ran into that quite a bit on the hair down in this lower part. But ultimately, I'm still satisfied overall with the work of it. She definitely turned out to be one of the best. I've said that already, I know. And I'll probably say it a few more times for sure. But it turned out to be great, and I was very happy with this one. You can see now I'm working out the details, just the flow anyway, the foundation of her hair on that side. Did a little bit of cleanup there. Just getting it all laid out, and then I'll come back in with a darker pencil, the 9B pencil, and finish, or fill out the dark areas. And then from there, I just take a paper stump and I just blend in around it and blend in the rest of the hair. And then the idea was to do the lighter details. I'd come back later with an eraser and just kind of, blend those out and, add the finer stuff. And so it's just a matter of patience. It's a process. Everybody has their own little process to it. And I do each drawing a little differently every time. It depends. Sometimes I start with the eyes. Sometimes, like this one, I started in the middle of her face. And it just depends on how the reference is positioned and how I want to position it on the drawing pad. That's really the bigger choice. I usually always finish up with the hair. But maybe next time I probably need to start with the hair. Just there's a lot of detail and a lot of patience that comes with doing something like hair. Here I didn't think it turned out too bad. I'll still go in on the other side later and I'll add in, more details, but you can tell here I've, kind of shaded in and got out some of the rougher areas. Do a bit more skin tone there before we reach her shirt. I'm doing some of the finer detail now in her hair and some open areas. That area there that I just worked on was probably my most disappointing part in the hair. It was very hard to make that look like the reference. But I made it work out. And we're going back through using the eraser in some different areas, trying to nail down that balance of light and dark and trying to keep it as true to the reference as possible. Went through a lot of paper stumps here. They don't seem to hold up or last. I apply a lot of pressure trying to get them to work the way that I need them to, and very smoothly try to blend in the pencil, the graphite, where I need it. There's a lot of bouncing around, if you haven't noticed. I know it's the video is moving fast, try to get through it, but there's a lot of time spent on each one of these areas. And so usually when I get tired of an area or I don't feel like I can carry with it, I'll look back at the reference and I'll pick out little areas that I just that just pop out to me. You can see there I got a picture on my phone that I took of it to help try to compare better to the reference. I can get them really side by side, and it's more to scale at that point. So then I can really go back and work on the finer details. So now you can see I'm getting back on the other side of the hair, working out some more stuff. Mainly all that's the erasing anyway. I forget what tool that is. It's an eraser, but it's a very fine point eraser. And now I'm back on the face, finishing up some more details there, more of the shading. You can't quite see, but I tried to get in some of her freckles. I got in a lot of the main ones and then just kind of blended in, what would be the rest. It's more obvious in person than it is here on the camera, but they're in there. More finer details of the hair. Now I've gone in and I very lightly did her shirt. I didn't fully color it in. It needed to be kind of a rough, textured look, so it was a kind of a light glaze. And then I go back now with a blending stump to add in all the detail, the shading, and the creases. And now we lay out the border. I did the border in charcoal because it's much smoother. It's also darker and it takes well to paper than graphite does. That's a charcoal stick, 6B, and that's what I did the border in. Mainly because I didn't like how my reference, the way I drew it, it finished out on the bottom of the page. So I felt it was necessary to take that up with a border, and it worked out great. So here's the time lapse again, much faster. So you can get a better idea of concept to finish. And there she is.